Walking down the supplement aisle at a pharmacy these days, it feels a lot less like making a health decision and like a lot more like navigating a casino.
Oh, absolutely. It's just
Yeah.
so loud.
Right. You've got this wall of bright colors, bold promises flashing at you, just aisles upon aisles of bottles, practically shouting that they hold, the secret to endless energy or perfect joints or a bulletproof immune system.
Yeah, and you just stand there.
Exactly. You just stand there staring at 100 different variations of the exact same vitamin, wondering where to place your bets without getting played.
It is an incredibly overwhelming environment. And, I mean, the truth is, the marketing noise in the wellness industry is intentionally designed that way.
Which is pretty terrifying when you think about it.
It really is. It's built to bypass your critical thinking and tap directly into your health anxieties. We're conditioned to look at a leaf on a label or the word natural and just assume it's exactly what our body needs.
When the reality of what's inside that plastic bottle is highly complex chemistry.
Precisely. It's not just crushed up plants.
Which is exactly why we are on a very specific mission for today's deep dive. We are going to cut straight through that marketing hype and the sheer information overload of the natural supplement industry.
It's so needed right now.
It is. The goal here is to build a real evidence-based framework for what actually works, what is just expensive dust, and what might actually be actively harming you.
And we have a phenomenal roadmap to guide us today. We're looking at a comprehensive text published in May 2026.
Oh, yeah, the Ingredientsage one.
Right, by Laurent Fabian, the founder of Ingredientsage. This guide was written to help both brands and individual consumers evaluate the true efficacy, safety, and sourcing of natural supplements.
Which is huge, because it's not just looking at the front of the bottle.
Exactly. It goes far beyond the label claims and focuses heavily on the hidden world of formulation and manufacturing.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can even begin to figure out if a supplement on that shelf is worth buying, we have to know exactly what we were looking at.
Right, we need a baseline.
Yeah, because natural supplement is just a massive catch-all umbrella term. At its core, the text defines these as dietary supplements derived from nature, emphasizing minimal processing and transparent sourcing.
But treating a multivitamin the same way you treat a living probiotic, it doesn't make any sense. We need a way to categorize them.
So how does the guide break it down?
Well, it breaks the market down into the big four primary categories. And what's fascinating is looking at them as a ladder of complexity.
Okay, so what's at the bottom of the ladder?
If we start at the foundational level, we have vitamins and minerals. Think vitamin D3, magnesium glycinate, calcium, zinc.
The basics.
Right, the basics. Their primary physiological role is relatively straightforward. They are isolated nutrients used to fill dietary gaps or, address specific nutritional deficiencies.
They are essentially the raw building blocks.
Yeah, but then you step up a rung on the complexity ladder, you get to herbal products and plant-derived concentrates.
So this would be your curcumin extracted from turmeric or echinacea or ginkgo biloba.
Exactly. We aren't dealing with a single isolated element like zinc anymore. We're dealing with complex plant chemistry. And the guide emphasizes that you can't just grind up a leaf, put it in a capsule, and expect a clinical result.
Because nature is unpredictable, right?
Totally. A plant grown during a drought will have an entirely different chemical profile than the same plant grown during a flood.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, which introduces the concept of standardization. For a botanical extract to actually be effective, the manufacturer has to chemically guarantee a consistent, exact level of the specific bioactive compounds in every single batch.
So if the label just says turmeric root powder instead of like a standardized extract percentage, you're basically rolling the dice.
You're just paying for botanical seasoning at that point.
That's a great way to put it. Botanical seasoning. Okay, so moving up the ladder again, we hit category 3, right?
Right. Omega-3 fatty acids, primarily EPA and DHA, usually sourced from fish oil or algal oil if you're taking the vegan route.
And the challenge here isn't just standardization, it's stability, right? Because we are dealing with highly volatile fats.
Exactly. And finally, at the very top of the complexity ladder, we have probiotics, viable, living microorganisms.
Actual living creatures in a pill.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the evidence across these four categories is incredibly nuanced, and it absolutely destroys the idea of a one-size-fits-all supplement.
How so?
Well, take those omega-3s. The casual narrative is simply that fish oil is good for your heart. But the text points out that effect sizes vary wildly based on dose and your baseline health.
Oh, right.
Yeah, meta-analyses show consistent cardiovascular benefits, but those positive effects are overwhelmingly pronounced in high-risk populations who are taking much higher clinical doses of EPA and DHA.
So if you are like a healthy 25-year-old taking a generic low-dose gummy, the clinical benefit shrinks dramatically.
It's negligible.
And that completely relies on the assumption that the oil isn't rancid, too. Because, I mean, omega-3s are so fragile, it's kind of like eating a stale, expired protein bar, right?
Yeah. That's a perfect comparison.
Yeah, it completely defeats the purpose and might actually make you feel worse. If you take a poorly manufactured, oxidized fish oil supplement, it isn't just failing to help your heart, you are actively ingesting damaged inflammatory fats.
It does. Which brings us to a fundamental shift in how we need to look at these products. Simply knowing that, turmeric reduces inflammation or probiotics help digestion is not enough.
Because the details matter.
Exactly. The actual formulation, the microscopic decisions made in the manufacturing process that dictates whether the supplement will work at all.
So let's get into the art of formulation, because the mechanics of how this works inside the body are fascinating to me. Let's go back to turmeric.
Sure.
The guide uses this as a prime example of formulation making or breaking a product. If you just take grocery store turmeric powder or a cheap, unstandardized pill, your body absorbs almost none of it.
Right, it just passes right through.
For it to work, it first needs to be that standardized extract we mentioned, hitting about 95% curcuminoids. But even then, the body treats it like foreign waste and tries to clear it out immediately.
Yes, because the liver's primary job is to filter and eliminate compounds it doesn't recognize or need in high concentrations.
It's doing its job too well.
Right. Curcumin is rapidly metabolized and excreted, so formulators have to outsmart the body's own clearance system. The text notes they combine it with piperine, which is an alkaloid found in black pepper.
And the mechanism there is what's really cool. The piperine isn't there to add nutrients. It actually temporarily inhibits the specific liver digestive enzymes that usually destroy the curcumin.
It's a bioenhancer.
Yeah. By essentially distracting the liver's bouncers for a little while, the curcumin can actually enter the bloodstream and stay there long enough to provide that anti-inflammatory effect. Without the piperine, your liver throws it out before your joints ever see it.
The precision required is astonishing. And it gets even more complicated when we look at probiotics.
Oh, the living creatures.
Yes. The health benefits are highly strain-specific. You can't just take a generic acidophilus and expect miracles. The guide cites a very specific, clinically backed combination.
Which ones?
Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG combined with Bifidobacterium lactis BB12. That exact pairing is used for targeted gastrointestinal and immune supportive outcomes.
But the manufacturing hurdle here is massive because these are living things. You're essentially creating a microscopic hostage situation inside a capsule.
That's one way to look at it. The manufacturer must design a product matrix and packaging that protects these specific strains from their two biggest enemies, moisture and oxygen.
Otherwise, they just die on the shelf.
Right. The metric we use here is CFU, or colony-forming units. It's not just a count of how many bacteria were dumped into the pill at the factory.
Oh, interesting.
It's a measurement of how many are actually alive and capable of reproducing once they hit the lining of your gut at the end of their shelf life. If a company cheaped out on the moisture barrier in the packaging, those CFUs die off long before the bottle expires.
So you're just swallowing a mass grave of dead bacteria, which does absolutely nothing for your immune system.
Exactly.
And earlier, we touched on the fragility of omega-3s. It's not just about getting EPA and DHA on the label. The manufacturer has to rigorously control oxidation.
Yes, they do. The source details that legitimate companies monitor specific chemical metrics called peroxide and anisidine values.
What's the difference between the two?
Well, peroxide values measure primary oxidation, so the initial breakdown of the fat. Anisidine values measure secondary oxidation, which tells you how far along that rancidity process has actually gone.
Oh, I see.
If a manufacturer isn't controlling for both, the oil is degrading. But the formulation choices go even deeper than freshness. They have to choose the delivery structure of the fat itself, specifically delivering it in a triglyceride form versus an ethyl ester form.
Wait, back up. If a triglyceride form is how fats naturally exist in fish, and it's what our bodies evolved to easily absorb, why would a company ever use an ethyl ester form? Is it just cheaper to produce?
Exactly. It's a cheaper synthetic shortcut.
Of course course it is.
By using ethyl esters, manufacturers can concentrate the oil and cram a much higher number of EPA and DHA onto the label. It looks better to the uninformed consumer.
But there's a catch.
A huge one. Your body has to work overtime to break that synthetic ester bond and rebuild it back into a triglyceride before it can actually use it. It delays absorption and makes the supplement far less efficient.
So we're essentially making our digestive system do extra homework just to process the shortcut the manufacturer took. That's wild.
It really is.
But even with the basic, seemingly foolproof stuff, the formulation dictates the reality. Look at vitamins and minerals. The guide provides standard dosing examples that are highly intentional.
Yeah, like vitamin D3.
Right. Vitamin D3 is commonly formulated at 2,000 international units, a clinically supported dose for bone and immune health. But with minerals, the chemical form is everything. Take magnesium.
Magnesium's a perfect example. The text specifically highlights magnesium glycinate, dosed at 200 to 400 milligrams.
Why that specific form?
The reason is that combining magnesium with the amino acid glycine creates a highly stable compound that your intestines can easily absorb. It offers high bioavailability and, crucially, high gastrointestinal tolerability.
Which is a polite way of saying it won't keep you running to the bathroom.
Pretty much.
Because if a company uses a cheaper form, like magnesium oxide, your body barely absorbs any of it. It just sits in your gut, draws in water, and acts as a powerful laxative. You think you're supporting your nervous system, but you're really just buying an expensive stomachache.
Precisely. And this is where we have to look at how these isolated nutrients interact with each other.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text brings up a combination that you see everywhere, especially in cold and flu season vitamin C mixed with zinc.
Oh yeah, you see that pairing constantly.
Usually it's around 500 milligrams of vitamin C and 15 milligrams of zinc. It sounds great, but the guide points out that depending on the product matrix, this combination can actually interact with a person's copper status and severely interfere with their iron absorption. Are we accidentally causing one deficiency while trying to fix another?
What's fascinating here is that you've hit on the exact reason why formulation requires such rigorous clinical consideration. It's not just throwing ingredients into a capsule.
Because our bodies aren't just empty buckets.
Right. The human digestive tract is not a hollow tube where everything gets absorbed equally. It is a highly complex, interconnected chemical highway.
Right. Think of your intestinal absorption pathways like off-ramps on a highway. If vitamin C, zinc, iron, and copper all need to use similar chemical off-ramps to get into your bloodstream, and you suddenly throw a massive concentrated dose of zinc and vitamin C into your stomach, you cause a traffic jam.
That's a great visual.
The zinc hogs the off-ramp, and the copper and iron get completely blocked out and flushed away. So, by trying to artificially boost your immune system with one supplement, you are inadvertently causing a nutritional deficiency in another area.
It's the law of unintended consequences applied to human biology. When you introduce high, concentrated doses of isolated compounds, they alter your internal environment.
They start fighting each other.
They compete for absorption. They alter pH levels in the gut. They demand significant metabolic resources from your liver and kidneys to process and clear.
Which leads us to what might be the single most dangerous misconception in the wellness world, the idea that natural means harmless.
It is a massive fallacy. Cyanide is natural.
Literally.
The guide dedicates a major portion of its framework to risk management because the safety considerations of botanical extracts and concentrated vitamins are vast. Many of these natural supplements can have severe, life-threatening interactions with prescription medications.
Yeah, the text specifically calls out anticoagulants, blood thinners, as well as anti-diabetic agents and antihypertensives used for blood pressure.
That's a huge risk area.
If you are taking a prescription blood thinner to prevent clots, and you start taking high daily doses of certain herbal extracts like ginkgo biloba, which also naturally thins the blood, you are dangerously compounding that effect. And your cardiologist has absolutely no idea you're doing.
Exactly. The doctor adjusts your prescription based on how your blood reacts, totally blind to the fact that a natural supplement is artificially skewing the results.
That's terrifying.
And the guide also introduces a concept that is becoming a major issue, the polysupplement burden. This is the danger of cumulative exposure to active compounds when a person is taking multiple different supplements concurrently.
Okay, so think about the chaotic symphony orchestra.
Oh, I like this.
One or two instruments like supplements playing a melody is great, but if you have 20 different instruments playing completely different songs at the exact same time, it just becomes dangerous noise.
You overwhelm the processing plant. The liver simply cannot clear that volume of active chemistry at once.
Right.
Fat-soluble vitamins, like vitamin A or D, they don't just flush out in your urine like vitamin C does. They accumulate in your tissues. This polysupplement burden can lead to chronic low-grade toxicity.
So think about your own medicine cabinet right now. How many different active compounds are you taking on a daily basis? Have you ever actually sat down and checked if the zinc in your multivitamin is stacking on top of the zinc in your immune gummy?
Most people haven't.
Or how those herbal blends interact with your over-the-counter allergy meds? It's incredibly easy to accidentally cross the line from therapeutic to toxic.
It's a sobering reality check. And we haven't even touched on the risks associated with quality variability.
Right, the manufacturing side again.
The text highlights that poor manufacturing can lead to contamination with heavy metals, residual agricultural pesticides, adulterants, and completely mislabeled dosages.
So you aren't even getting what's on the label.
You might think you're taking a safe 100 milligram dose of an herb, but the actual concentration in the pill could be 500 milligrams. Or it could be laced with an unlisted pharmaceutical to make it feel more effective.
And this kind of chemical chaos is especially critical for what the text calls special populations. We're talking about pregnant or nursing individuals, children, older adults, and anyone with hepatic liver or renal kidney disease.
Their biological machinery works differently. Their metabolism and clearance rates are altered.
Because their organs are either developing or compromised.
Right. A standard dose of a botanical extract that a healthy 30-year-old liver clears in 3 hours might circulate in the bloodstream of an older adult for an entire day, building up to toxic levels. They absolutely require a clinician's input before starting any of these regimens.
Which naturally brings up the biggest question of all. If the risks of interactions are this high and the quality varies so wildly from brand to brand, who is actually making sure these products are safe before we buy them?
That is the uncomfortable part. Because these risks are real, consumers and retailers have to rely on a regulatory framework. But as the text clearly outlines, that framework is essentially a regulatory Wild West, and the level of protection you have varies entirely depending on where you live.
Yeah, the contrast the guide draws between the United States and the European Union is staggering. In the U.S., dietary supplements operate under a law called DSHA, the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act.
Yes.
Under this framework, the manufacturer is the one responsible for evaluating the safety and labeling of their own product.
Let that sink in. They do not need FDA approval before taking a supplement to market.
Really?
Really. The FDA primarily acts in a post-market capacity, meaning they usually only step in after a product is already on shelves and people start reporting adverse, harmful effects.
Wait, so a company can just source a powder, put it in a bottle, write a compelling marketing claim on the label, and essentially police themselves?
Yeah.
The regulators only show up if people start ending up in the hospital.
Effectively, yes. The burden of proof for safety is incredibly low on the front end in the U.S.
That is wild.
Now, contrast that with the European Union. They operate under a completely different set of labeling rules and safety assessments, heavily trending toward rigorous pre-market evaluations and much tighter post-market surveillance.
So they actually check before it goes on the shelves.
Yeah, exactly. The level of scrutiny required to make a health claim in Europe is vastly different.
Because of that U.S. framework where the burden of verifying safety falls almost entirely onto the person holding the bottle, third-party certifications become your absolute best friend.
They are critical.
If the government isn't testing it, someone else has to. The guide names a few critical seals to look out for: USP, NSF International, and IFOS, which stands for International Fish Oil Standards, specifically for those fragile omega-3s we talked about earlier.
Those seals are non-negotiable if you want peace of mind. If a bottle has an NSF or USP seal, it means the brand paid an independent, objective laboratory to physically test the product.
So you know it's legit.
They verify that the potency matches the label, and more importantly, they confirm the absence of contaminants like heavy metals and pesticides.
I want to highlight a quote from the text here from an industry quality assurance leader. They state, "Transparency in sourcing and third-party testing is the single most important driver of consumer trust in natural supplements today."
It's so true.
And this aligns perfectly with the massive consumer trends the guide maps out for the 2023 to 2026 period.
The market is fundamentally shifting. Consumers are exhausted by the mystery meat approach to supplements.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
There's a massive demand for clean labeling. People want farm-to-bottle sustainable sourcing, where they can trace an ingredient back to the soil it grew in.
And the really cool part the guide mentions is the digital health integration. Brands are implementing QR code-based traceability. You don't have to just trust the label anymore.
It's a game changer.
You can literally scan the QR code on the bottle and get real-time batch testing updates. It pulls up the actual independent lab results for the specific bottle you were holding in your hand.
This raises an important question, though, regarding how consumers can actually evaluate these products to avoid misinformation. Because not every brand has a QR code yet.
Sure.
How can you practically evaluate these products in your day-to-day life? The text outlines a critical appraisal checklist.
Let's run through it because this is the real actionable framework.
First, when evaluating a supplement's claims, prioritize primary sources and scientific meta-analyses over just reading a secondary blog article or an influencer's post.
Good advice for everything, honestly.
Right. Second, verify the regulatory status of the ingredients in your specific market. What's legal and considered safe in one country might be banned in another.
Also very true.
Third, obviously check the physical product for tamper-evident packaging. And fourth, if you want to be truly diligent, demand batch-specific certificates of analysis, or COAs, for potency and contaminants.
I was looking at this checklist Fabian provided, and that last step, demanding a certificate of analysis, it seems like a massive hurdle. Are companies actually providing these highly technical lab documents to a normal person buying vitamins at the grocery store?
It used to be impossible, but that's exactly where the QR code trend comes in. The most reputable brands now make the COA instantly available on their website by entering the lot number stamped on the bottom of the bottle.
That makes it easy.
Yeah. If a brand refuses to provide a COA or makes it incredibly difficult to obtain one, that is a massive red flag. They are either hiding poor quality or they aren't testing their products at all.
It sounds like a lot of extra work. But when you consider the stakes that you are ingesting, highly concentrated, biologically active chemical compounds that can alter your liver function and interact with your medications, it is absolutely worth the effort.
It's your health. You have to be proactive.
We set out on a mission today to cut through the marketing hype and build a framework. And Laurent Fabian's text does exactly that. Navigating natural supplements requires demanding transparency.
Yes. Looking for third-party seals like NSF or IFOS, respecting correct dosages, and remembering that these powerful natural compounds can and will interact with your body and other medications.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean? Where is this whole industry actually heading?
The guide touches on a trend that I think provides a fascinating glimpse into the future. It discusses personalized nutrition strategies driven by digital health tools and consumer data.
Oh, like syncing your health apps.
Exactly. Think about that farm-to-bottle traceability and the push for highly individualized dosing we just explored. It leads us to a highly provocative thought.
I love where this is going.
Are we rapidly approaching a future where we completely stop buying stock bottles of vitamins off a shelf? Imagine a scenario where you don't have to guess what your body needs or worry about causing a copper deficiency by taking too much zinc.
That would solve the polysupplement burden completely. Right. Could the future of supplements be a single, daily, customized formulation? A liquid or a compound that is literally mixed for you every morning, perfectly matched to your digital health data, your smartwatch sleep metrics, and your biometric readouts from that exact moment.
A completely bespoke daily dose. One that dynamically adjusts to your stress levels, your exact metabolic clearance rate, and your diet that week. It would completely eliminate the guesswork and that overwhelming casino feel of the supplement aisle entirely.
It really would. It's an incredible thought to mull over as technology and biology continue to merge.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We highly encourage you to take the framework we unpacked today and go take a much closer look at the labels in your own pantry right now. Until next time, stay curious.